All of you, good morning. This is Yatish Kumar, PGT Geology, TS Model School, Chintapalli, District Nalgonda. Today, class on respiration. The energy producing system. Respiration is of two types. One, aerobic respiration. Second, anaerobic respiration. In the aerobic respiration, the organisms utilize oxygen to produce energy. For aerobic respiration, the organisms require a cell organelle, that is mitochondria. Hence, mitochondria is called powerhouse of the cell. Powerhouse of the cell, mitochondria. And coming to the second one, anaerobic respiration. Some of the bacteria like lactobacillus and fungus like yeast and muscle cells in our body, muscle cells also undergo anaerobic respiration. Fermentation is one type of anaerobic respiration. Fermentation is one type of anaerobic respiration. In this type of fermentation, yeast cells, they undergo anaerobic respiration, that is we are calling as fermentation. And coming to the end products of aerobic respiration. In the end products, CO2, water and energy. So these are the end products of aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration takes place in all green plants and animals. All green plants and animals. Coming to the end products of anaerobic respiration. Here, in the case of bacillus, that is called lactobacillus, in the lactobacillus, the end products are lactic acid and energy. In the case of yeast cells, that's fermentation. In the case of yeast, in fermentation, ethanol, carbon dioxide and energy. So these are the end products of anaerobic respiration of fermentation. Third one, in the muscles in our body, muscle cells also undergo anaerobic respiration. In the severe exercise or vigorous exercise, the muscle cells consumes most of the glucose, oxygen. So after the consumption of the oxygen, the muscle cells undergo anaerobic respiration. In our body, anaerobic respiration of the muscles, they also produce lactic acid. So lactic acid is one of the end product in the muscle cells. Whenever the lactic acid is accumulated in the muscles, then the muscles cannot work. So that condition is called muscle tiredness. Means muscles are tired whenever there is a lactic acid. In the biology terminology, it is called muscle fatigue. Muscle fatigue. So, whenever there is a lactic acid in the muscles of the animals, the muscle cannot work. That is called muscle fatigue. This lactic acid is transported to liver to convert it as a pyruvic acid and glucose and re-enters into the muscles. Coming to respiration in plants. Respiration in plants. Already you know very well that the smallest holes on the leaf are called stomata. On leaves, they are responsible for gaseous exchange in the plants. Along with stomata, on the stem, some of the holes are pores present for the purpose of gaseous exchange, that is oxygen or CO2 exchange on the stem. Those are called lenticels. So lenticels on the stem, stomata on the leaves are responsible for gaseous exchange in the plants. The root hairs, the root hairs also responsible to take the or exchange the gases like oxygen and CO2. The gases are present in the air spaces. Oxygen is present in the air spaces in the soil particles, between the soil particles. So the oxygen present in the air spaces in the soil is taken up by the root hairs, and then from the root hairs they enters into the plants. But in the case of some of the plants near the seashore or marshy areas, marshy lands. So in this area, the air spaces are completely filled with the water. There is no gap in the air particles, and then the air cannot enters into the soil. So in that case, the root hairs or the roots cannot take the oxygen for respiration. In those areas, like in the marshy lands or in the seashore areas and in the pond areas, the roots of some of the plants like mangroves. So mangrove plant, the roots are comes outside on the soil. Actually, roots are positive geotropic. They enters into the soil. But in the mangrove plants, the roots come out on the soil because the air spaces are filled with water to take oxygen. The roots emerges on the land. Those roots are called respiratory roots, also called aerial roots. So, respiratory roots, also called aerial roots. So, respiratory roots is one of the adaptation in the water logging conditions. It is one of the adaptation of the plants where the water lagging conditions. Now, the last topic in the second lesson of SSC State Syllabus, Telangana State, that is Biological Science. The second lesson in the respiration, the last topic is photosynthesis versus respiration. Photosynthesis versus respiration. So the first lesson is photosynthesis, second lesson is respiration. What are the differences between these two biochemical processes? First point, photosynthesis. It takes place it takes place only in green plants. So only in the green plants. Whereas respiration takes place in all living organisms. Second point, photosynthesis takes place only at a daytime because it requires sunlight. So photosynthesis takes place only in the daytime, so in the sunlight. But coming to the respiration, it takes place in day and night. Means every minute respiration is important. It takes place day and night. Photosynthesis takes place in the chloroplast. The cell organelle responsible or required for the photosynthesis is chloroplast, whereas respiration takes place in mitochondria. Whereas in the photosynthesis, the solar radiation or the solar energy, the radiation is converted into chemical energy. Solar energy converted into chemical energy. Whereas in the respiration, this chemical energy are also called potential energy. Potential energy or chemical energy is converted into kinetic energy or mechanical energy. Okay. Next, coming to the fifth point, photosynthesis is a anabolic reaction, also called constructive or construction. Means here inorganic components like carbon dioxide and water, they are converted into glucose. Means construction, something is constructing in the anabolic process, that is called photosynthesis, one type of anabolic reaction, whereas the respiration is one type of catabolism or catabolic reaction. Catabolism means breakdown. So breakdown of the glucose takes place in the respiration, means glucose breaks into two components in the glycolysis and produce energy. So for the production of energy in the respiration, glucose breakdown takes place, that is called catabolic reaction, whereas in the photosynthesis, glucose synthesis takes place. The synthesis that is called anabolic process. So photosynthesis is one of the anabolic process, whereas the respiration is one type of catabolic process. In the photosynthesis, carbon dioxide is necessary for photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide is necessary for photosynthesis, whereas oxygen O2, oxygen is responsible for respiration. Means in the respiration, oxygen is taken inside, whereas in the photosynthesis, CO2 is taken inside and the CO2 is converted into glucose in the photosynthesis. CO2 carbon dioxide converted into glucose in the photosynthesis, whereas glucose breakdown takes place in the respiration in the presence of oxygen. So, oxygen is utilized in the respiration to break the glucose. CO2 is utilized in the photosynthesis to prepare glucose. So, photosynthesis is an anabolic reaction or anabolic process, whereas the respiration is a catabolic process. Now we are stopping here. Thank you. Thanks for listening. Like the video and share the video. Thank you.